Hi everyone, welcome back. In the previous video, we covered what Active Directory is and why it's important. In this video, we'll go through the steps to set up an Active Directory domain on Windows Server 2022. To install Active Directory on Windows Server, you need to promote your server to be a domain controller. There are three main steps you need to follow. First, assign a static IP address. A domain controller must always have a fixed IP address. If the server uses DHCP, the IP can change and users won't be able to find the domain controller. And since every computer in the domain must communicate with the domain controller, the IP address must stay the same. That's why assigning a static IP address is the first requirement. Second, install the Active Directory Domain Service role. The role that allows a server to function as a domain controller is called Active Directory Domain Services, or ADDS. Installing this role prepares the server for domain operations and gives you the tools needed to configure Active Directory. Third, promote the server to be a domain controller. After installing Active Directory Domain Services, the next step is to promote the server. This is where you tell Windows this machine is now a domain controller. Now, let's get started. Here I have my Windows Server 2022. I also made a video where I walk through all the steps of installing and configuring Windows Server 2022, and I'll put the link down below if you need that. So first, let's change the machine name. I'm going to go to Settings, and here I'm going to change the name to BRDC1. Just keep in mind, this does not change the actual server name inside Windows. This only changes the virtual machine name. We will change the real computer name after we log into the server. Now, let's power up the machine. Now that it's up and running, let's log in. Click Input, Keyboard, Ctrl-Alt-Delete, and type your password. And Server Manager will start automatically. After we log in, the first thing we will do is change the computer name inside Windows. Click on the File Explorer. Right-click on this PC. Click Properties. Rename this PC. I'm going to name it BRDC1 and click Next. Changing your PC name requires a restart, so we're going to restart the machine now. Click Restart Now. And I'm going to pause the video. The server is up and running. Let's log in. Click Input, Keyboard, Insert Alt Delete. Type your password. View, full screen mode, switch. Okay, now let's verify the computer name. Press Window plus R, type system.cpl, and press Enter. Here you can see the computer name have been changed, and it's in a work group, not our domain. Click OK. Now that we have changed the computer name, the next step is to verify that this server is using a static IP address. Right-click the network icon. Click Open Network and Internet Settings. From the menu, click Ethernet. Click Change Adapter Options. Right-click on the Ethernet. Click Properties. Click Internet Protocol version 4, TCP IPv4, and then click Properties. Here you can see the IP settings. Because use the following IP address is selected, this confirms the server already has static IP address. If it were using DHCP, the first option, obtain an IP address automatically, will be selected instead. Below that, you can see that the DNS server is set to the server's own IP address. This is important because when we promote this machine to be a domain controller, it will install DNS, and Active Directory depends on DNS for name resolution. So the server needs a static IP address, and the DNS should point back to itself. Once you have confirmed everything is correct, click OK, close. Next, we're going to add a role, and the role we need is the domain services role. You can click Add Roles and Features here, or use the same option in the Server Manager dashboard, Add Roles and Features. Before we add anything, take a look here. Right now, the server is only acting as a file and storage services server, which is the default role for a fresh Windows Server installation. After we install domain services and DNS, you will see two new rules appear here. One for DNS and one for Active Directory domain services. So let's click Add Roles and Features. This wizard will guide us through installing or removing server roles. Click Next. Here you'll see two installation types. The first one is role-based or future-based installation. The second one is remote desktop services installation. We are choosing role-based or future-based installation. This is the standard option used to install server roles like Active Directory, DNS, DHCP, file server, and so on. Keep the default selected and then click Next. On the next screen, select the destination server, the server where you want to install Active Directory domain services. If you have multiple servers, they will all appear here. In our case, we only have one server, BRDC1, and it's selected by default, so click Next. Now we need to add Active Directory domain services, so go ahead and check that box. As soon as you select it, it tells you it's going to add additional management features automatically, like Remote Server Administration Tools, Active Directory module for Windows PowerShell, Active Directory Administrative Center. These tools are required, so click Add Features and then click Next. Here you will notice other features added automatically like .NET Framework features and Group Policy Management. A domain controller uses Group Policy to apply settings to computers, users, and organizational units. We will learn more about Group Policy later. For now, keep everything selected. There's more down. Keep everything selected and click Next. On this screen, it gives you information about what Active Directory does. It stores information about users, computers, and devices on the network, and it provides secure administration, authorization, and authentication. It also mentions redundancy. That means it's recommended to have more than one domain controller, especially in real-world environments, so that if one domain controller goes down, the other can keep the network running. But since we are in a virtual lab, we're only using one domain controller. Active Directory also requires DNS. It cannot function without DNS because DNS is built into how the domain operates. Now you'll see an option about restarting the server. For this step, a restart is not required. The restart will happen in the next step of the setup. Before installing, you will see a summary showing Active Directory Group Policy Management and all the additional features that will be installed. Click Install, and I'm going to pause the video while the installation runs just to save you some time. The installation of Active Directory domain services has successfully completed. Alright, I'm going to click Close. And you can see here that we now have a new server role added. This is the Active Directory Domain Services role, or ADDS. This confirms that the role itself has been installed. Now if you look up at the Server Manager dashboard, you will notice a yellow notification. I'm going to click that. This message indicates that the post-deployment configuration is still required. This is completely normal because installing ADDS by itself doesn't finalize anything. We still need to promote the server to a domain controller, which is the third step. We already verified that the server's IP address is static, we installed ADDS role, and now we are ready for the final step, promoting the server to a domain controller, the machine responsible for hosting and managing the entire Active Directory database. So I'm going to click Promote this server to a domain controller. This opens the deployment configuration wizard, and the first things it asks us to do is choose a deployment operation. The first option is add a domain controller to an existing domain. This is used only when a domain already exists and you want to add another domain controller for redundancy or load balancing. We don't have any domain yet. This is our first machine, so we cannot use this option. The second option is add a new domain to an existing forest. This would create a child domain under an existing forest. Since we don't have any forest yet, this option also doesn't apply. The third option is add a new forest. This is the only option that fits our scenario because this is the very first domain in this environment. We need to create a new forest. So I'm going to select add a new forest. The wizard asks for the root domain name, so I'll type brdm.com. Click next. Now we choose the function level for both the forest and the domain. These levels exist mainly for backward compatibility. If you had older domain controllers in your environment, you could lower the function level to support them even as far back as Windows Server 2008, but lowering them removes modern features. So I'm going to keep the default forest function level set to Windows Server 2016 and also domain function level set to Windows Server 2016. Below that, the DNS server is automatically selected. Active Directory requires DNS because the domain needs to resolve names to IP addresses. For the first domain controller, DNS must be installed here, so we keep it checked. The global catalog option is also selected, and this cannot be unchecked on the first domain controller. Every environment needs at least one global catalog server, and the first DC is always required to host it. The read-only domain controllers or RODC option is disabled, and that's expected. You can only create RODCs after a normal writable domain controller already exists. Next, we need to set the Active Directory Services Restore Mode password. This password is used if the domain controller ever needs to be started in recovery mode. It's different from your domain admin password, so make sure to store it safely. I'll type a strong password. And I'll click next. Here we get a warning. The server has detected that there is no existing DNS server in the environment. Since DNS isn't installed yet, it tells us it can't find one. It also gives us the option to create a DNS delegation with another DNS server, but we don't need that because we're installing DNS right here on this server. So click next. Now it's verifying the NetBIOS name. Before selecting the name, Windows checks to make sure no other devices on the network is using it. It assigns BRDM and no conflicts were found, so click Next. Now we see where the Active Directory database, log files folder, and sysvol folders will be saved. I'll accept the defaults and click Next. Here is the summary page. This is the settings we chose. We chose a new forest, and the domain name is brdm.com, and the NetBIOS name is brdm, and the forest function level was Windows Server 2016, and the domain function level was Windows Server 2016. Global catalog, yes. DNS server, yes. DNS delegation, no, because there's no other DNS server to delegate to. Now it's very important to look at this button right here, View Script. I'll click it, and you can see that Windows generate a PowerShell script based on everything we configured. This script can be extremely helpful in the future, especially if you are working with Windows Server 2022 Core Edition where there's no graphical interface. Everything is command line, so having this script saved can save you time later. So I'm going to click File, Save As. I'll name it AD Script and click Save. Close it, and let's click Next. Now the wizard runs the prerequisite check. The prerequisite check ensures that this machine is capable of becoming a domain controller. You will notice some yellow warning icons. These are normal. Things like backward compatibility, cryptography warnings, and DNS delegation warnings always appear on the first domain controller. What matters is that the green message at the top, all prerequisite checks passed successfully. If you click install, the server automatically reboots. So click install, and I'll pause the video here. The installation has completed and the server is now restarting. It signs me out automatically and then goes through a reboot to finalize the configuration. Now let's log back into the server and see what has changed. Click Input, Ctrl-Alt-Delete. On the login screen, you will notice something new. Here we have the name is BRDM Administrator. This confirms that we are now logging into the domain. Now let's type the password. Once you're in, the first thing you will notice is that two new rules have been added: Active Directory Domain Services, or ADDS, and DNS Server. We also get several new management tools. Click Tools in the dashboard here. You can see Active Directory Administrative Center, Active Directory Domain and Trust, Active Directory Module for Windows PowerShell, and many more. All of these were installed as part of promoting this machine to a domain controller. Now let's verify the computer name. Press Windows plus R, type system.cpl, and press enter. Here you can see that the computer full name has changed to brdc1.brdm.com. Why? Because this machine is now part of the brdm.com domain. Before this, it was just a normal workgroup computer. This confirms that the server has been successfully promoted and now it's functioning as the domain controller for the BRDM environment. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.